Welcome to the Stepmom Side with Alicia, the podcast for stepmoms ready to create the life they want and one they actually have a say in. Here we talk all things stepmom life and just a little bit more. Leave the superficial conversations at the door and get ready for perspective shifts and actionable advice to help you on your way to creating the life you want, one step at a time. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Alicia.
I'm super excited to chat with you. The last time I chatted with you wasn't like on super great terms, but now it's better. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But my audience may or may not know you. Can you tell them who you are?
I'm Lauren. I am a stepmom of two girls who are long distance from me, and I have a daughter of my own with my now husband. She's 18 months, and I just recently started a page called Blended by Distance. It's a stepmom support page, and I'm just starting to grow it. So I'm really excited for that, and I'm excited to be here and talking to you.
Oh my gosh, I'm super excited too. I remember when you reached out and you were like, I have something to tell you. I'm a little scared to put myself out there, but what do you think? I
Mhm.
was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing because I think every stepmom in any capacity needs support, right? And like maybe my style is not their style, but yours is, or maybe it's not our style, it's somebody else's, right? So I'm always like, if you follow a bunch of stepmom pages, like good for you. Like take snippets from everyone's page and like apply them to your own life because you are the expert on your own family, right?
Yeah, and I feel like what am I like 4 years, 4.5 years into doing this, being a stepmom, and it's been quite a journey so far. But I feel like I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I kind of have a handle on what I'm doing, even though no one really has like a perfect handle. But I feel like I can give some insight and some advice and kind of just share stuff from my journey that might reach other people. So I was like, I think. And I've always wanted to do it since like day one, following all the stepmom pages. I was like, this is so cool. Like I didn't even know this was out here. And then I thought like, one day when I can get my life together and feel confident in myself enough as a stepmom, then I could get one going. So we're starting it and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm really excited.
That's awesome. Okay, so talk me through your journey because like I said, some people may or may not know it. So talk me through where'd
How
you
it all
start? Where are
started.
you now?
So I think we'll start with where I met my husband. I met my husband, I think it was the mid-November of 2020. I was
Perfect. Perfect timing.
I know, right? I had just decided to separate with my then husband, and I will preference we had like no kids or anything, so it was like I like to call it a legal breakup because it was very easy. But I was with that person for a while, and I was just like, okay, time to start this new journey in my life. And my husband just so coincidentally walked into my life about 2 weeks after deciding I was gonna no, not even after, while I was separating. Um, and he kind of just was able to transition himself in there really nicely. But we met because it's actually kind of a funny story. Like I don't know if it's or it's kind of like ooh, kind of cringe, but my personal Instagram page was public, and he had been following me apparently for like quite some time. Apparently, we had gone to the same gym together. I'd gone to that gym with my now ex-husband, and he'd gone to that gym with his now ex-wife at the same time. And I never knew who he was. I never knew who his ex was. But the common thing was that my now husband and my ex were, well, my husband still is. My ex was a Marine. I promise I don't have a type, but I'm like also like I swear I don't have a type. But so they would talk in the gym, but very briefly, like Marine stuff. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm gonna go over here and do my own stuff. So I guess from that, he noticed me and he found my page and he'd been following me. So when on someone's Instagram page, you can see when things are slowly changing, like pictures start slowly deleting and people put like these motivational quotes on their stories about like, turning over a leaf or not being in a relationship. I guess he caught on to that really well because he'd messaged me and commented on one of my stories. I was at a wine tasting with a friend, and he was just like, "Oh, that looks really good." And I was like, "Yeah, it's like, my favorite place to go." And we were just chit chatting for a little bit. And then he hit me with the, "Yeah, maybe we should get a drink sometime." And then I just ghosted him because I was like, I'm going through a lot of stuff right now. I don't think we should do this. So it didn't seem to bother him because he like once in a while, not like frequently, would comment on my stories, like, very sparsely.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple days later, he commented on another story, and we got into conversation again. And I was like, yay, like, didn't mean to ghost you there. Like, I'm going through a couple things right now. I'm actually trying to figure out how to get a divorce at 25. And I don't even know how to even start doing that. Like, I just know I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And now it's legal. Like, what? And he was like, oh, no, that's okay. He's like, I'm used to being ghosted. I was like, okay. And then we just honestly started talking about like divorce because he's like, oh, I'm divorced too. Like, it's a welcome to the club kind of thing. And we just started talking. And I was like, after a while, I was like, do you actually want to go grab that drink? And he was like, sure. So I think about 2 weeks later, we went to that same spot of that winery that he'd commented on, and we had our first date. And then we literally never left each other's side.
So cute.
Yeah, I'm like, it's different, but it is cute. It's endearing. He was persistent
Yeah.
and it worked.
Oh my gosh, I remember because I follow your personal page, but I remember it was like all workout stuff. And like that's something that I liked about it because I work out too. And like when you
Mhm.
guys were working out together and then now it's not any workout stuff. Like
No, it's all baby.
yeah.
We did just start going back to the gym together because the baby is old enough where I'm like, okay, she can go to that gym play area, and I'm like not a mess of anxiety. So that's been nice actually. But yeah, it's been a while since we did that. But yeah.
It is crazy though to go, just to touch on that for a second, to go from like working out together all the time or like working out whenever you wanted to all of a sudden like not. And then
Bro.
so out of it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, right? Because you can just see like your body literally like changing. And then you're like, oh my God, I put in all of this work. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We've talked
Oh
about
yeah.
that. Yeah.
The mom bod is definitely there. I mean,
Yeah.
we're still like gym rats. We go all the time. Maybe not together, but we definitely prioritize it. But it's more definitely for my mental health because if I don't go or he doesn't go, like you can tell we're in a mood because that's definitely our release. So, but yeah, I'm trying to get back, but I'm kind of slowly accepting I'm never going to get back to pre-baby, which is okay.
Yeah. It's
I
just,
birthed
yeah,
a
definitely.
human. It's okay.
Now these hips like follow me everywhere.
I had I had a friend ask me, she's like, how do I get my hips a little, more curvier? And I'm like, birth the child. I don't know what else to tell you. That's how I did it.
That is hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah.
like birth a child.
It works. You feel your hips move during pregnancy. Like it's wild. I'm like, it works.
And they just stayed. Okay, so tell me about your stepmom journey. Like where were you and where are you now? Or like tell me
So
ebbs and flows.
yeah, it definitely ebbs and flows. If you were to tell me 4 years ago, I'd be where I am right now, my stepmom journey, and this is like so cliche because I feel like I hear a lot of people say it, but it's really true. I'd be like, you're absolutely kidding. Because I remember when I jumped on my first call with you
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and you were the first stepmom like page and like
Ah,
really because I followed a lot of stepmom pages, but you were the first one that felt really relatable. So I was like, okay, I feel comfortable going to her. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
Thanks. I like that.
then
I'm like
I
blushing.
just like let it all out to you. I remember in that Zoom call, and I just remember getting on that call with you feeling so hopeless. I don't know if we were engaged yet or we were, soon to get engaged, but I had just felt like at that point, I had no control over my life. I had no control over my relationship. I had no control over my emotions. And I felt like I was like a little puppet
Mm-hmm.
of someone else. And not, I guess, looking back, not specifically I mean, it was easy to point fingers back then. Back then, I was like, his ex is ruining our life, blah, blah, blah. Like she controls everything. But like in hindsight, it's like, I think just the dynamic of being in a blended family and realistically following someone else's um, court order and, their needs and wants before yours and thinking that's just how you had to accept it and definitely losing yourself in that and not knowing where else to turn. I just remember going to you and being like, I want to give up, essentially. Like I didn't know where else to turn. Like you were like my last hope. And I remember you told me it took, I think the number, I want to say 7, that it takes like 7 years for you to feel like a part of your step family. And I just remember being like, that's a long. I don't know if I have time for that. I don't know if I can wait that long.
Yeah.
But and that you just were like, a lot of these things is with time,
Mhm.
and thankfully I'm 4 years in and I feel, very at peace in my role, and, you know, blended enough to where I'm content and at peace. I mean, I still have my moments where um I get in my head and I get anxious and I feel like an outsider.
Mhm.
But now what's the crazy thing is it just feels like me and my daughter are the outsiders, which is a whole different kind of feeling, you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, back then I wasn't able to have a mindset like I have now. I wasn't able to, there was really nothing to reflect on. I was just all reactionary,
Mhm.
point blank. Everything was reactionary. Everything was, well, this is making me feel like this. Like this just doesn't feel right with me, and not really looking into it from like a different perspective. And it was just rough. Um, but where I am now is definitely a lot better. But I guess, do we want specifics? Do we want some tea of like,
I think like just to like talk about that for a second though, like I felt very much the same way. Like I remember talking to you and being like, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm talking to myself." But
Mhm.
like years passed
Yeah,
because I like goosebumps, but doesn't it doesn't help like when, like when I'm talking to you and I'm like, "Lauren, it just takes time." Right? You just have to sit this out and you're like,
like
need help like I need help like now. Like,
now.
can you give me something, right? Because I felt the same way too. Like when I got help, I was like, that's awesome, but like what can I do to fix it?
Yeah,
And she was like, nothing. And I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like nothing? Like like I can't do something to like make this. Like, do you know how terrible my life is? Because everyone else is doing something wrong, but not me. And
yeah,
then same thing, I was like, oh, I actually do have a lot of control. And when you're talking about controlling your
yes,
emotions, oh my gosh, I was like the queen of not being able to control her emotions because they just all came out because you're like bottling everything up and you're trying to like be nice and play nice and like make sure everyone likes you and not step on any toes and not rock the boat and then like that one thing happens and
and
it's never whatever, yeah, it's never whatever that is that happens and you just lose it and you're like, oh, sorry. I've been holding in a lot of stuff.
yeah, and yeah, I mean that's exactly it. And a lot of times, like you said, it's not that one specific event that happens that tips you over the edge. It's a buildup, or it's like the meaning behind it, the meaning you have behind it. You know what I mean? And it's so hard. Like you were saying, like you didn't want to step on anyone's toes. You're trying to be nice and everything, but like realistically, I don't want to say we're being fake, but like you're not being your truest self,
Mhm.
and you're not allowing yourself to be your most authentic self. So it is exhausting
So
to be
exhausting.
quote unquote this fake version of yourself that you're just like, I don't even know how to do this. I don't even know if I like this version. Like I'm feeling like I'm just emptying my entire cup, and like there's just a constant hole at the bottom of it. And it's like you can only keep it up for so long.
Yeah,
And
that facade eventually falls. Yeah. And you're like, how did I get here? And I don't know, like you probably had this too, but you just one day all of a sudden wake up and you're like, where did I go? Like
yeah.
what happened to me? Like I used to be insert whatever personality type you had, and then like one day you're just like, where did that person go?
Yeah. I remember, so one thing, me and my husband, when we first started dating, and I would take trips with him to see his kids almost every other weekend. So I guess this will get back into a little more information. He sees his stepkids, my stepkids. He sees his kids every other weekend. But he has to travel one, two, three, four states away. So when I first met him, it was taking, without traffic, it was like 4.5 hours. But with traffic, which there was always traffic because of where we live, it would take like 6.5 hours every other weekend. So when I first met him, after I met the kids, and I met them at 3 months, which is another thing that is too early. I wish it was a little later, but I would start going with him. And we would sing on car rides and we would make it a blast because it sucked. Like he's going to see his kids and of course he's excited, but like as any human, like traveling that every other weekend. And this man did not miss a weekend unless he was dying sick.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was it. Like his work was understanding because of his divorce decree and they just made it work. And that ride, it just stinks. Like it's a mental toll, 100% sitting, like knowing that every other weekend you have to sit in traffic and you get there and you're happy and it's worth it. And, you have fun for about a day and a half, maybe, and then you do it all over again. And then it's just, but we used to sing all the time in it. We used to like make it fun. And I used to just, I could feel my bubbly personality going away. And then I just like stopped singing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a good singer. Like, it's not like I'm an artist or anything, but like I would just sing for fun. You know what I mean? Sing at home, sing to songs, sing in the car. And then one day I was like, I don't remember the last time I sang. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, wow, something's got to change. Because I really have lost who I am. And I remember my husband would ask me, ask me what my hobbies were. And at that point, I'm like in the trenches of stepmotherhood. I'm trying to figure this out. We've just gotten engaged, like planning a wedding. And I'm like, I don't have time for hobbies. Like I'm worrying about everyone else. And a really big part of me was like, this is just how it has to be. And then, eventually you get burnt out and you're just like, I have to focus on me. And then you don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. And yeah. That's the scary part. You're like, okay, I know I need to do this, but like, how do I do this? How do I do this without feeling bad? How do I do this without, making other people think I'm being rude and like not caring about them? Or how do I do that without people thinking I'm abandoning them?
Yeah, it's a lot. But your stepkids have always liked you, right? Like
yeah, I was very lucky with that. I met my stepkids maybe a little over 3 months into dating my husband. So we met mid-November, started officially dating December 7th. And his little cuckoo self was like, oh, I'm going to Jersey for Christmas. Come with me. And I was like, absolutely not. That's a little too quick. And he was like, fine, I get it, whatever. But we would FaceTime every time he would go there. So the kids would see my face. Mm-hmm. And then for his birthday in the end of February, he was like, just come, I want it to be my birthday present. The kids have really been asking about you. So I went and it went really well. I do have to say, I told him, I'm not going to meet your kids until I meet your ex first. So he always picked them up from her house at where she lived then. And I'm like, tell her, I'm coming, like, let her know. I don't want it to be, weird. And she'd known about me, up until then. Like he told her immediately, like back off, essentially. This one, I like this one. I think I want her to stay around. So she knew about me and he told her I wanted to talk to her. And I was like, it's so funny. Cause in my head, I was like, we're going to sit down. We're gonna have to talk. Like, it's going to be great. She's going to accept me. She's going to love me. And, I'm going to get her side of things and what she needs from me. And I remember I went into the house and it was very chaotic because the girls were running everywhere and where I'm like waving hi from the hallway. And then the kids were ready to go in the car. And Sean's like, oh yeah. Well, my husband is like, oh yeah, like Lauren wants to talk to you for a second. And she's like, okay. And I was like, I've never dated a man with kids before. Don't really know how to go about it. I don't know what you need from me, what you want. Like, I wanted to come here and ask you, like, what's going to make you comfortable? Like, what do you, like, help me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And like, I want to come to you and help me help you. And I remember she just looked at me and she was like, well, the youngest loves everyone, so you won't have an issue getting along with her. And our oldest is very shy and introverted, so she might not warm up to you as quickly. I was like, that's it? Like that. Like, I kind of need more. Like, I need you to, like, what do you want me to do? What do you not want me to do? Like, I was like, I had this whole vision in my head that we were going to sit down and she was going to, I was going to be able to figure it out in a day.
Of course.
Like, how to be a stepmom and like what she needs from me and that we're never going to step on anyone's toes again. And it's going to be great. Perfect.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. So we got the kids in the car, went back, and our oldest, the one who she was like, she's more introverted and shy, we clicked immediately. And even to this day, she's my girl. I love her. And our youngest, she's just a crazy little spitfire. And I love her. But she, of course, like their mom was right. She gets along with everyone. You're like a new person. She's like, let's play.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest she was 4 and 9 when I met them. So now they're 8 and 12.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So it was a fun age, and I feel like it was a good age too. When my oldest was 9, I felt like I was able to talk to her more on like a friend level, so that was kind of easier for me. And then with the youngest being 4, I was like, I don't know what to do. You want to color? Like,
Right? It's hard to like balance. Okay, I can interact with you this way and then you this way, right? Because so many times we think I have to treat them exactly the same. I have to
no,
interact with them exactly the same. And you can't. They're so
no.
different. And even if they were twins, let's say, or even if they were the exact same age, maybe like I'm an Irish twin, and so
Hmm.
same age or similar ages, they're very different people.
Yeah.
Are
And
you?
they are polar opposites even to this day.
Yeah.
Like one likes pink, one likes blue, one likes rainbows and butterflies, and the other one likes, darkness and scary movies. It's just so funny. They're so different. And then I never had kids of my own. So
Yeah.
like I had never held a baby. I never babysat. I didn't have friends who had kids. So I'm like, oh, children, what do I do? So that in itself, I was like, I don't know how to be a stepmom. I don't even know how to interact with kids. I don't know. I didn't even know things like, what do they eat for breakfast? When should a bedtime be? Like,
11.
do I, yeah, like midnight now, right? It's like, do, do they brush, like, do they brush their teeth at night? Is it a once a day thing for them? Is it a twice a day thing for them? I do twice a day. Do that. Like, it was like every single thing. I'm like, I don't know what these kids do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they've got like their own routine and like their own what their preconceived notions are of like what's going to happen, right? That is so hilarious. I didn't know that you didn't babysit and like you had never had any experience with kids.
No,
That is
the first baby
hilarious.
I held was my own.
Oh, that's so
I was,
sweet.
I was terrified.
Yeah. Oh my
I was like,
gosh.
I've
Yeah.
never held a baby before.
Yeah. And like you're gonna let me go home with her?
Like, take care of this? Okay.
Are you
Uh,
gonna come with me and like help me? No? Okay. By myself? Me? Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's so funny. So what struggles did you have like trying to navigate that to get to where you are now?
Um, so I'll bounce off of what you said with them having their own routines. That was a big eye opener for me too, because you're trying to like fit your way in to something that's already established. And even the routines, like the kids don't know you don't know what their routine is. You come in, you should know, especially at that age. So it's like you're trying to fit your way into these routines. Some things you don't necessarily agree with either. And then you're trying to like, maybe I would do this differently, or like, try and be an outside perspective without being a jerk. You know what I mean? Like coming off like to my husband, like maybe approach it this way and this might help without undermining him and making him feel like he's a bad parent. Um,
Because how could you know? Because you don't even have
I
kids.
literally have no clue. I mean, the biggest thing I could fall back on was I'm a nurse.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I not to kids, but like to adults. So I'm like, I know something about taking care of a human being and like what's good and what's going to keep them alive and like that stuff. um, so trying not to not only step on the ex's toes, the children's toes, but not stepping on my spouse's toes. Because um I we've talked about how between the months of like 4 and 9, we had fights almost like weekly, if not every other day. And like at that point you'd be like, you're only dating for 4 months. Why would you have arguments and like not, dip out of there? And it's because it was both of us trying to find our way. Like he had never brought someone this serious into their life. And, after 4 months, I'd met the kids. He's like, okay, you met my kids. Like, I kind of want you to stay. And now I'm like, okay, oh my God, I've met your kids. I want to stay too, but like this is overwhelming. So we're trying to figure out how to do this dynamic that both of us had never done before. And we were just constantly arguing, constantly disagreeing. It was a lot of, if I said something or he said something, that we would immediately react to, well, they're my kids. And then you feel that separation immediately. Mm-hmm. Or, well, I don't deserve this. And then there's that separation immediately. And then it was just really hard to find that balance of feeling like we didn't even have to say a family at that time, but even like a cohesive unit, And I think one of the other struggles, not with the kids, but like just about being in a dynamic with kids, is not having any memories with them, and them constantly talking about memories of their mom and dad together, things they've done, things they're doing with their mom. When you're trying to find your place in this, and you're trying to find where you matter or fit in, or like your little hole that you fit in, you know what I mean? And their past is constantly brought up because they're kids and they're going to share their past because that's their life. How can you not also think about their past then? It's in your face all the time. And when you're someone who's never dealt with this, probably has a lot of unhealed crap to go through herself, which I still definitely do. Yeah. You're going to look at this as if like, one, why am I going to try and like fit myself into a space that I don't feel like fits? Because it's very easy to get down on yourself and like, do they even want me here? Like, I am technically intruding. The kids didn't ask for me to be here. So it's really easy to get in that whirlwind of thoughts and down that rabbit hole. And I 100% dove headfirst into that rabbit hole and stayed there and kept digging my way down. And that was just with that dynamic. I feel like there's so many different things being a stepmom. So like, okay, this is my struggles with blending with the kids and being a cohesive unit. Like, I got along with them. I loved hanging out with them. We had a blast, but that doesn't mean all of those other things like still weren't there and existing at the same time. And so that was also hard for my husband to understand, because he's like, you have a great time when they're here. They love you. They look up to you. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. I love that. But also all of this is still here in my head, in my thoughts, in my feelings. And then with, my partner having a past lover, a past ex, like, you are human and you're going to think about their past. You're going to think about, well, why did they really divorce? Well, if she didn't do X, Y, and Z, would they still be together? Would he, want to, because, I'm not going to give details, but like they were going through stuff, period. And, their relationship from the start was rocky, which is how it started. But ultimately, something was done on her end that was kind of like the final straw. And I would tell him like, well, if she didn't do that, would you even want to be with me? Because ended it, but you ended it because she did this. So the rabbit hole it's like a cave, and it is a dungeon, and there's a lock and key, and someone swallowed it and you don't know where it is. It is very hard to get out of. But other than thinking about that past, I had my own inner quarrels, because I will say I don't think she knew them, because they were definitely inner with her, in the sense of I felt like she was overstepping kind of unsaid boundaries with my relationship with my husband. She didn't really ever overstep stuff with the kids. Those are her kids. I was like, they're yours. I don't know what to do. Like, please, you want to do it. Like, I love them. I want to play with them. I want to guide them, but like, you do it. But when they had ended their relationship, their family dynamic was very different than how ours is now. Me and my husband both work full time. We're both, we contribute to all the bills, and we both kind of have a hand in that. And in their relationship, he was earlier in his military years. And so with being like younger in rank, there's a lot more training, a lot more schooling, you're away more. a lot more training. So she was a stay-at-home mom, and he brought in, the finances, but she took care of everything. She took care of the house, the kids, the bills, the taxes, all the, all the little things you got to keep track of in life. So when they separated, she even went as far as she found his apartment for him. She kind of like set him in it. She's like, yeah, we're separating, but like, here's a little box with a bow in it. Just go here, go. So he had a very convenient, he had it very, I don't want to say easy, but it was very convenient for him in that way that she was one to take the ropes and kind of do it for him. And I do believe, and he's so much better. I'm so proud of him with this too, because God, it was bad. It was a very codependent relationship he still had with her, where in the sense hers was still more holding on to control and being able to control things in his life that even though they seemed small, it was pretty important. And he kind of was like, whatever, I don't got to do it. She's willing to do it. She's not giving me crap for it. She's, extending a hand to do this to help make my life easier because I am here by myself away from family because they had ultimately moved back states away to be near all their family because they're both from the same place. And he would always say to me, everything in my life just works. So with her overstepping, she, still had her name on his bank account. He was still on her phone plan, all the streaming apps. Her family did his taxes. And he's talking to me like, I want a life with you. And I'm like, I love that for us. Thank you. However, you're going to need to change this. And it's going to be work, but like, I can't marry you. And like, okay, before I came in the picture, if that's what worked for you guys, fine. But dynamics are changing still. And I think what confused me was she was married again. And she had essentially told her husband then, they have gotten divorced since, like, this is how my relationship with him is, just deal with it. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work with me. Like, I need to feel like I have a relationship that's no, shade towards anyone. Just, this is a normal relationship. And he would start to set those boundaries with her. And he wouldn't be like, Lauren wants me to do this, Lauren wants me to do that. He would, set them himself. And it blindsided her. And she did not react well to any of that. And hindsight would say it's because no one likes change. I don't care who you are. I don't care what it's about. When it's change and you're not the one changing it, you're going to be resistant to it, period. But I just saw someone who did not want to let go of any control. And she did, like, begrudgingly. And we ended up, slowly getting things onto an account together and all the stuff, took her name off of all of that. But with that happening and her saying not so nice words and the typical, I liked your girlfriend. And then, now I don't know. I didn't know she could be like this. And, I thought she supported our co-parenting relationship. And I'm like, but then in the same breath, she was always texting him about things that weren't necessarily about the children. And it was things like, oh, look at this memory from 5 years ago where the kids were in it for 2.5 seconds, but the memory is really about us, or sending a picture of her and the kids from 5 years ago, but she's like mid in the picture taking a selfie mostly on her. And I'm like, you don't send pictures of the kids. Send pictures of him and the kids. That's fine. But it was just little things where I felt like this is not appropriate. And if you feel this is appropriate, that's okay. But, he's going to tell you otherwise. And he would tell her otherwise. And there was this one time he was like, I really don't care about what happened with so-and-so that we both were a mutual friend with years ago. Sending me a memory of a party we threw like a couple years ago, I don't really care about. And like, I don't really need any of this. And she just slowly, it started getting more and more, I don't want to, I guess you could say high conflict, but it wasn't really high conflict, just more and more tense. It grew definitely more and more tense every time. And what got me the most was I got to a point where I would walk into our home and I would just be anxious, or anytime his phone went off, because he had a specific text tone for her, so he would know it's her. Like my heart would drop, and I felt like I couldn't even be at peace in my own home. And he didn't know that. He didn't know I couldn't be in peace in my own home. We're here watching a movie, having a glass of wine, having a great time. I'm a ball of anxiety inside, and I'm like, how do I didn't know how to get rid of this, and I didn't want to get rid of him, but like this feeling, and him setting boundaries helped, but there was so much pushback on those boundaries that, okay, well, now maybe she's not sending pictures, and now maybe she's not sending, saying stuff about their past, but now they're getting into more arguments. Now everything is an issue, now it's getting more tense. And it was, realistically, it was just that for a while. And then we got engaged about 8 months into knowing each other. So it was pretty quick. And I'll never forget this either. We got engaged, and he texted her and said, I want you to let me know when it's a good time to call the girls. I just want to let you know, I just proposed to Lauren, and, whatever. She said, oh my God, congratulations. So happy for you. By the way, I need to talk about their life insurance plan. And he's like, can we not talk about this right now? And then she's like, well, I was going to bring it up anyway. And it's like, I don't think you were, but okay. And then he kind of just brushed that off. And then it felt like I can never catch a break. It felt like we can never catch a break. It felt like she always was trying to find a place in our relationship where she still felt valid, or like she had a little bit of an input or a little bit of an effect. And it was working. Like she was having an effect in our personal relationship and my relationship. And it got to the point where it was I have to preface, it was very weird, because like I was having these feelings, and they would get into arguments or little bicker fights, but then in the same breath, it was like she was trying to be really good friends with me. Like she was friends with me in all social media. She would be commenting on all my stories, very nice things, nothing bad. But it just felt like she was always there. Like I want to go on my social media and not have an inbox from you. I want to sit at my home and not hear the text ringtone go off. I want to like not get engaged and you talk about effing life insurance. Like this is not how it's supposed to go. So after a while, I spoke with my husband, and I was like, I think I need to block her. I didn't know how to go about it. I didn't know if I should tell her. I don't know if I just do it. He's like, just do it. So I blocked her, and God, it was nice. But I do have to say, I'm going to spill on myself right now. I was that maybe once a month I would unblock her real quick and kind of scroll and see what was going on. Because,
I need to know.
They're hundreds of miles away, but still things they do is going to somehow affect you, affect your house, affect your emotions. And it never made me feel good after I did it, but I would do it. But it did help that I blocked. And then on our 1-year anniversary, I had her blocked at this point for like 2 months, almost 2 months. Our 1-year anniversary, we went out to a really nice restaurant, and in the middle of the dinner, he gets a text from her, and it says, wow, she really blocked me. Like, how does she want to be a good co-parent? Like, this just shows me she doesn't want to co-parent. Like, I didn't even do anything. I didn't think she was like this. And I was like, what is the coincidence that on our 1 year, we're in the middle of a really nice restaurant, and I get this text almost 2 months after having her blocked? So it was things that they weren't like big things that you can point a finger and be like, that's why I, had so much tension. That's why I was so uncomfortable. It was little subtle things consistently over time that I was just like, I felt so defeated. I actually ended up writing out a message and sending it to her around New Year's saying, like, I unblocked you. Like, you know, felt like I had to block you. Like I wasn't in a good state mentally. Um, I don't want to say it's necessarily anything you did specifically, but I just felt like I needed space. Like I know you were trying to what seemed like form a friendship, but like I just felt like it was always you were always there and I didn't have peace in my own home. Like I felt like it wasn't just me and Sean. I felt like it was the three of us. I was like, I could have gone about it and told you first, but I just felt like I needed to protect my peace. I'm coming out of a messy relationship, getting right into one with him. Like it all moved quick. So I kind of set it up in a way where I'm like, it's not just you, it's me too. But like, I needed to separate from things that weren't serving me. So like from the beginning, I was always trying to set boundaries, but I just don't think I knew it. And I don't think I knew how to keep them either. So I was very inconsistent with it, but I actually ended up messaging her that, and she messaged me something back fairly short and fairly not emotional for how emotional she was in the text that she'd sent my husband about me blocking her. And so then I had her unblocked, and then it was things were good for a while. We're planning the wedding. She's seeing the relationship with the kids grow. She sent me a really sweet message before my wedding, like, and a vulnerable one where it was like, you know, it's always hard to see your kids loving another woman, but like, I'm glad it's you. And, they love you so much. They're happy. And we shared some exchanges back where I, explained, I'm not mom. Trust me, I know that. Like all the typical, I'm not trying to replace you because it's true. So like it was very much ebbing and flowing. And then I got pregnant. And that was very ebby and flowy throughout the whole pregnancy. And I wish I'd done it a little differently in hindsight, but um, our wedding was in May of 2021, and I got pregnant, I guess technically in June. And then I found out in July. I found out very early at like 4 weeks. So like it was a typical wedding, baby, boom. Everything's quick in this relationship. So slow it down, girlies, because I love where I'm at, but it all happened pretty quick, so that definitely doesn't help. But um I found out I was pregnant, and the girls were there with us when I found out I was pregnant, which was really awesome. Um they were really happy when I found out, which was surprising because they had always talked about like, please don't add another sibling to this family, so that always made me more nervous. But they were there when I found out. They were with us for a month at that time, so they weren't going home to their mom anytime soon. And first thing they want to do, I want to tell mom.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, well, let's go to the doctor's appointment, make sure the baby's okay. Before we start telling anyone, like I'm very early, like trying to buy as much time as I could. And luckily they had an appointment in 2 weeks. So I found out really, quick that the baby was okay. And then I was like, okay, well, how do you want me to like, do you want me and dad to tell her? Like, no, we want to tell her. And I was like, are you sure? And
You're like, no.
are you sure? And our youngest was like, well, why would you need to tell her? I want to tell mom. And I was like, because people react differently to pregnancies. And she's like, well, why wouldn't she be happy?
Good question.
Yeah.
Glad you asked.
I was like, well, people just react differently. And we did it in a way where I texted her like, hey, the girls want to FaceTime you. Are you busy or you're at work? She's like, yeah, I'm at work, but I have a moment. I'm like, okay. The girls wanted to do a 1, 2, 3, Lauren's pregnant, like really just throw it right out there. And again, I didn't really know how to go about it. I know there's a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on how they should go about that stuff. I still don't know what the right way is.
It depends, right, on everyone's situation, because if you are really good friends or your situation is really friendly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter, right? Like you can just say it. I had a lot of anxiety about it too. Um, she had remarried and she had already had kids. They had twins. And I think the kids told us. And um yeah, I think the kids told us. And I had like all sorts of feelings about it. Like there was a lot of jealousy, there was resentment that like she's doing something again that like I want to do, like all of the things, right? And then when we got pregnant, my husband was like, I should tell her. And I'm like, why? The kids told her, like, why don't you just do that? And he was like, because the mature thing to do is just for me
Yeah.
to tell her. And I was like you were talking about, it's just one more thing that
Yeah.
they're like in there, right? And so I didn't interrupt you because I wanted you to like be able to
I know
talk
you're
about it. Just every like little thing, like they're there, and it's so maddening because you're like, I just want our relationship to be us. And I 100% completely related when you were like, my husband didn't have like a specific ringtone for her, but we were on a group chat. And so like if his phone went off, my phone was always on vibrate, but like if his phone went off, like on the rare occasion, like mine would be on, and then it would be like a texting war, not really a war, but like
oh
just text,
yeah.
text, text, text. And I'm like, I would be like zing, like out of the house. Like I would just like go
Mhm.
through the roof because I couldn't, same thing, like I couldn't relax. It was just like all the time. I was, and same thing, we've been out like on anniversary dates and we've gotten texts and it's like, hey, what do you think of this prom dress? And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like we're at a really nice restaurant. Like we need to discuss this right now.
Like I
Like
just want 1 minute where it's just me and
us.
my husband. And I know the reality, especially having my own now, those days are very slim. But when you have those moments, just give it to me. Like just
Please.
let me have
Wow.
it.
Yeah. So I definitely relate to that. And something else that I wanted to say along those lines, and I never thought about it until now, was like, it's not her, it's what she represents, right? We talk about that as stepmoms. It's not us,
Like
it's
what
what,
we represent
yeah.
to them.
Yeah, like she could be anyone. Like,
Mhm.
I could switch my husband's ex with you and
Yeah.
I like you,
Like
right?
a
But it's
friend,
still,
like your husband's friend. And you're like, all right, this is a lot. Can you chill? Like,
yeah. But especially if it's an ex, it's like, I like you, but damn, like, could you,
yeah,
like, we don't even have the kids right now.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
like, I don't want to be talking about you. Like, I know who you are.
yeah,
I know what you've done. Like, I
yeah.
know you guys were married, because you kind of talked about that too. And I'm like, yeah. So I want to go back to this too, because you have been married before
Mhm.
and your ex doesn't factor into your relationship, I'm assuming, as much as,
Ding, ding, ding. Dude, the amount of times I've had to tell my husband, um, I get you guys have children together, and there are some things that you get a pass because of that. Like, you need to be at events together, you need to do stuff together. But, if my ex right now would text me the stuff that your ex is texting you, you would lose your ever loving mind.
yep.
And I have to have a reminder of your ex every single day. My, I didn't have kids with this dude. I didn't even own property with this dude. He is like, he's gone. He's just like, that's it. But if the roles were reversed, you would be livid.
Hmm.
Be livid.
We talked about it too, and my husband was like, it would be really hard to deal with. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. I'm like,
I
okay,
know.
so
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 when
you
I'm
get it.
struggling, can you like give me a little bit of grace? And it took a lot, right? Because that emotional or lack of control when it came to like the emotions, right? Because I was like, right,
Yeah,
just 0 to 100. And once I was able to like regulate myself, and going back to how you're saying, like, how do I step back and like make it like I just need to take care of me? First of all, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing, but like I need to take care of me without like feeling bad about it. Also, not feeling like I'm putting you guys out with the trash tonight, but like
right.
I don't really know what I'm doing. But once I found that I could just do things that brought me joy and do things that I wanted to do and not felt like I had to do, like I could just kind of, not that I could ever really turn off. And now, especially like with my own daughter, like I don't ever feel like I'm ever really turned off. Or like I feel like I'm always on and like there's always some sort of
Yeah,
performance, right? But once I could just go back and like be Alicia and just do something that I wanted to do, as much as, I felt like for the longest time, like, oh my God, if I'm not, hanging out with them every minute that they're here, they're going to think that I hate them and I don't want
yeah,
them around. And then I was just like, you know what? get out of your own head. Like you are projecting your own insecurities, you're projecting your own trauma, you're projecting your own childhood, like all of those things onto them. No one's thinking that. They honestly probably want some time too to not be like, okay, let's get together and like let's play board games and like let's bake together and like let's do all the things
Yeah.
together, right?
And especially being long distance because my
Mhm.
husband is military. When they would come for, one of their school breaks or a couple weeks in the summer, I'm like, okay, now I have to cram everything into this little amount of
Everything.
time. I don't have them 50-50 where, we have a normal routined week. It was very hard to get into a routine because one, especially when we went on the weekends, we really had a day and a half together. And at first it would bother me that we didn't have a routine. But in hindsight, I'm like, how are we going to have a routine being not even in our own home with them for a day and a half?
Mhm.
How is that going to happen?
Mhm.
They're coming to us, when we go to them and they're hanging out with us for that weekend. For them, realistically, it's like a little reprieve of everyday life. And it took me a while to be okay with that because then I was like, are we just Disneyland step parents? Are we just a Disneyland dad?
I
And
don't want to do that.
that made me feel like really bad. Like I wasn't adding anything to these girls' lives, but I had to take a step back and be like, no, we are, teaching them manners, the morals. We do have um rules, maybe a little looser because how many rules can you fit into a day and a half? Um, but they were there. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with, just being, a little more chilled and relaxed and letting them have that reprieve. But there was no way we were going to get into a routine. And like I said, when you have that short amount of time with them, you just want to fit everything in and you feel like you have to fit everything in and you feel like since every hour counts, it has to be perfect.
Mhm.
Like
You
if
just posted something about this recently.
I I think I did. I definitely posted something about I don't know if it was on my Instagram or my TikTok, but like being a Disneyland parent that like, you know,
Not being
oh,
perfect.
just because, I think it was like just because, um, or we don't see them 50-50 or like
Yeah.
we're a little lighter on the rules doesn't mean we're Disneyland parents. Like our dynamic is just different. And I think that's what it is. I don't even remember. Like I remember, but like I don't fully remember it. But it's something across those lines. But the part I had to let go of was, like I said, trying to make every hour perfect. And if it wasn't perfect, I was so hard on myself. I had failed as a stepmom. This one bad moment is what's going to stick out in their head of me, not the rest of the time that I literally tried, baking cookies with them and getting all the games with them and bringing them to all the places and literally running myself ragged to try and, give them the most dreamlike fairy tale week with us. And that was a lot. It definitely makes you lose your self of identity. And it's like it felt good in the moment, but I was exhausted. So then after a while, I couldn't even really enjoy my time with them because then I'd be going back and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be tired. Like you had to prep yourself up. Like it's just
Yeah.
go, go, go. Everything has to be perfect. And then you get exhausted and it pulls you back from really even enjoying your moments with your stepkids then. And I had to just be like, chill. This is not what you do every day. This is not what you do at home. The stuff I did with them, I barely do with my own daughter, like how perfect it all has to be.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And that whole like you just need to chill. And it's like innately like I know I need to relax. I know I need to like just chill out, but like can you tell me how? Because I if
Mhm.
you tell me what to do, I can do that. But like if I'm just left to my own devices, like I can't. Like I don't know what to do because I need to be perfect. I need to do all the things. Actually, I'm really anxious right now because I don't like it's just like this really vicious cycle of like yeah, everything needs to be perfect. I remember when my stepson moved in full time and before he actually moved in full time, my husband thought I was crazy, but I went through and like literally put together like 31 crock-pot meals like in a gallon Ziploc bag. Like for because he played football and I was like
Yeah.
it's the two like the three of us, like him and I and like our my daughter and like my husband travels for work. So I'm like
You need to
every
prep.
night, yeah, every night like he's gonna have a home cooked meal because I'm not gonna be that stepmom that like is going to take him out for fast food because then everyone's going to have opinions on it and like all of the things, right? Like every
Yeah.
night's going to be a home cooked meal. Every night we're going to do this. And I was just like, I don't even do that shit with my own daughter. Like, granted, I do like cook quite a bit more now. Before he moved in full time, like that made me like get it together because I was like, we could have
Yeah.
chips and salsa for dinner. You want some cheese and wine? Like, we're that's like
Yeah,
we
right.
need.
A
You want
girl
some
dinner.
cereal? Yeah, right, exactly. Like, you want cereal? Like, what do you want? Like, what do you eat?
Yeah.
But kind of the same thing. And then now I am better at it. But like, if I like yesterday, we had a really busy day, and so we had one event, and then we were going to another event that was like an hour away. And so I had said to my daughter, like, guess what? We can go to McDonald's or we can go to Burger King. And she was like, really? She was so excited. And she was like, yes, whatever, so we go and we get fast food. But like before I would have been like, no, we need to go home. I need to make him something. And it's just like there's so much pressure to perform and
Yes.
do all of the right things. And like I don't
We're
even
not actors.
I
Like
know, like,
we
and
not
I
we
don't
not
have a script
sure.
I'm reading. Like I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing, but like I feel like I'm supposed to know what I'm doing because everyone's watching me. I feel like I'm on stage and
Yeah.
like so I am an actor, but like with no lines or I just forgot them.
Yeah. 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 Like the lights just on you and you've forgotten all your lines and now you're sweating with beads drip down your
And
face.
everyone sees it because I'm like pitch
Yeah.
out and they're like, "Oh my God, look at her. She actually sweats. She's like cracking under pressure. This is amazing."
Yeah.
They're like cheering for me and I'm like, "No, this is not what I want."
My worst nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just like there's so much pressure to just be perfect where I don't feel that pressure or as much of that pressure, I should say. I don't feel that pressure
Right.
as like with my own daughter.
And that's the thing, like becoming a
Come on.
my own daughter after having like me having met my stepkids and being a parent with them and being a parent with my own daughter, they're two completely different experiences so far.
Mhm.
Um, not towards the children, like when they're together, oh God, I love when they're together. One, when they're all together, my heart feels like at peace. It's like such an amazing feeling.
Mhm.
But the experiences are like so different. Like,
Mentally. So
yes, you're parenting a human, and you want to guide them and you want them to grow into the best people possible. But I have my mom guilt, my mom anxiety, but it's for things I didn't have to deal with becoming a stepmom.
Mhm.
I can make my choices for my daughter and not worry about what X, Y, and Z thinks of it because, yeah, I might get a little judgment, but after a minute, I'm going to be like, I don't care, this is my daughter.
Mhm.
And then when you're trying to make judgments or plan things for your stepkids and all you're worried about is being judged, is this
What
going
her
to,
mom would
you're
say.
thinking 5 steps ahead, like, okay, if I do this, this, and this, is this going to piss someone off?
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
the
do
mental
that.
gymnastics. Yeah.
Yeah, it really, yeah, you're like, it is gymnastics.
It's so exhausting. And right, like, okay, so if I do this, is it going to piss my partner off? What are they going to go back and tell their mom? What is somebody going to see that's also going to go back and tell her? Is this going to be the thing that's like seared into the brain about how I'm a terrible stepmom? Like
Mhm.
there's so many things where, yeah, you're right. Like with my own kid, like say whatever you want. Like I don't care. At the end of the day, like I know that she's still going to come here and I know that she's still going to love me. Like it's
Yeah,
that unconditional love. But here, like for whatever reason, I don't really feel like it's conditional anymore. Maybe kind
right.
of, but like that there's not that unconditional bond,
Yeah.
even though
And
like
I had a post about that. I got torn apart. I actually deleted it and reworded it differently and it reacted a little better. But, and this is a touchy topic, but it's like the difference between having an ours baby and your own kid and your stepchildren. And I also think it also depends on like the age you've met them. It does depend on your custody agreement, how often you see them. Um, right? Like if you're a full-time stepmom, you have them 100%. You met them when you were little. Of course, you're gonna build that bond, and you're gonna be like, they're mine. Like I feel like I've birthed them. And then in my situation, it's like, I love those babies to death. They are my daughter's sisters. They are my step babies first. I always said they made me even understand what a mom was before my own daughter made me a mom. But I have, I birthed this child. Like, she's my biological daughter. I love these children and I chose to love these children and I love them all. But when I say the love doesn't feel different. Like I feel more for one than the other. It just is.
Yeah, it's
Like
just
one is, and I might get some hate for this because I definitely got a lot of hate for this, but I really believe in this. Like one is innate, one is biological to a sense. And this is for step families. This is not about adoptive families because they will come at me because they have come at me. Circumstances, just like how environment creates families and environment makes people grow differently in different environments. It's the same thing. So the environment, can control it and change this. But for me, they have both parents that love them and take care of them. So the love I have towards them is just as equal and great, but different.
Mhm. Not
And
bad. It's just different.
it's different. And I was like, you love your spouse different than you love your mom, then you love your sibling, then you love your kid. Love for a different person can be equal but different.
Can we tell you something funny?
Nothing wrong.
When I think we were married. I don't know, maybe we're dating or engaged. I don't even know, but we were talking about love. And my husband was explaining this to me. He was like, I love you and I love them, but it's different.
Hmm.
And I was like how? Like, what do you mean? Like, how is it different? Like, do you love me more? Do you love them more? Like, is this a competition? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's
Hmm.
happening? Like, what do I need to do to win? No, I'm just kidding. Like, not. But like, what do you mean? But now I get it, right? Like,
Yes.
it's like, well, like you love this person different than you love me, which is different than you love this person, which is different than you love that person. But yeah, it is different. Like it's not bad. It's just different.
I love my daughter different. I was going to say more than, I mean, I probably love my daughter more than my husband, but
Yeah, it's
no, but
just
I love my daughter differently than I love my husband. And the funny thing looking back is you just sparked a memory. When I was pregnant and I was hormonal, I would, grieve that it wasn't just going to be, you know, us most of the time and even us and the girls. Cause like we had, by the time I got pregnant, we had, gotten to our own routine, the four of us when they would come here. And I'd be like, I'm worried you're not going to love me anymore when the baby comes, or you're not going to love me as much. And he's like, I'm not. Like, he's like, of course I'm going to love the baby more. And I'm like, what? But like, I knew what he meant. Like, for your own child, like, you are going to have a different, maybe even more love. Like, we all would, save our child over our husbands, I believe, but I didn't get it either until I had my own. But it doesn't make it wrong. So it doesn't make it wrong with how you feel. Cause I know that's something I struggled with too, especially when I first had my daughter. I was introduced to a love I never experienced before. Just like I always told my husband, I was introduced to a love with my stepkids I never knew I could have. I never, like I said, experienced a relationship with children before. I never had younger siblings, like never babysat anything. They showed me a love that I was like, oh my God, the love I have for my stepkids is different than the love I have for my parents, my spouse. Like it still equates. So I found a different love with my stepchildren, and then my daughter came, and I was like, "Ooh, this is a different one too."
Mhm.
And I struggled with that for a long time because um, I didn't want the girls to feel that,
Yep, agree.
and I think that was something they struggled with a lot in the beginning because I think they could feel that. Um, and I think they felt it in the sense of there was this new, vulnerable, tiny being that needed all of our attention.
Mhm.
And they would be here. Um, it was, they were here after she was born, they were here for their spring break for 2 weeks. And then they'd be back like 6 weeks later for a whole month. And they could feel that this infant was taking away from them. And that was a very hard time because I felt like we had worked so hard on our relationship, and I felt like having my daughter was going to backtrack it all,
Mhm.
which was that was hard because then I didn't want to be upset that I had my daughter because it was ruining my relationship with my stepkids. I didn't want to be upset with my stepkids because they weren't understanding my daughter and then throw in postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, and you're screwed.
Yeah, it's like a great
You're
combination.
just
Oh my gosh.
screwed.
Yeah.
And they met her when she was a week old, because that's just how the schedule went. And that was another thing. I was like, we're gonna have 2 journey kids in our house with a week old. And I had to calm myself down and be like, if my daughter had a sibling, they'd be in the house, like, relax, but you have all these thoughts.
And it's your first. And you're
Yeah.
like,
So you're psychotic, like,
yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really are. And that was hard because my postpartum anxiety was so bad. And my stepdaughters, not only did they have a new sister, they were transitioning in a time in their life where they were moving. So this is going to be their mom's 3rd marriage. Since I've been in their life, they had moved. At this time, this would be 4, and moved 2 school districts, 3 school districts. And that was happening around the time my daughter was born. So they had a lot going on in their life. So they had their now stepdad, they just met. Their mom was like, guess what? We're all moving into a big house together, new school district. And also, by the way, your stepmom just popped out a child, and that's your sister now.
Good luck.
Yeah. So the 2 weeks they were here was a ever loving shit show. And I was scared that we were not going to bounce back from it. Mm-hmm. Because I, would try to best communicate, especially with my oldest. That broke my heart because, like, she was my girl from day one, and she saw, like, her Lauren was getting taken away from her. And she had the hardest time with that because we'd come over, she'd show me her videos, we'd watch YouTube together, we'd play our board games. And now I was like, I can't. And I had to keep reminding her, like, I had to make her laugh. I had to call my daughter like a sack of potatoes. I'd be like, Mama, like, this little lifeless being is a sack of potatoes. Like, she needs me to sleep, breathe, eat. Like, she can't even lift her head up on her own. Like, I know it's hard for you to grasp, but, like, I'm not going anywhere. I just need to, like, divert my attention a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I told her, I said, I promise you, when she turns 1, you're going to love her. She's going to be like a little being. She's going to look like a human. Like, it's not just going to be this little alien, just like, sucking the life out of me, literally.
Literally, yeah.
But our youngest was acting out behaviorally a lot. My mom was here to stay, and she was acting out when her father was down in the room, when her father went out to go to the gym. And that was hard for me and my mom because we felt the switch. And again, in the moment with all the hormones and everything, you're like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't you. I've known you for the last 3.5 years. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. And then our oldest would just say a lot of off things. What happens if the baby gets sick? What happens if the baby dies? So my postpartum self is like,
we're gonna kill her.
Talking about the baby dying.
Yeah.
Well, it was a really dark place. And to the point where I had to message their mom and be like, I don't want you to get mad at them, but I don't know how to handle this, and I was telling her because I'm like, the youngest is acting out and being behavioral. This one's talking about death of the baby. And like, I'm freaking out. And I'm like, it's just, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm reaching out to you. And this was at a point where the ebb and flow of it was like, okay, but like of our relationship, but it wasn't great. And it was a rough time. And there was one point where my oldest, we were in the kitchen eating, and this broke my heart. She looked at me and her dad in tears, and she was like, so Dad and Mom had us together, but now that Dad has a kid with you, are we still his kids? Oh, yeah. I literally choke up right now. That broke my heart because that kind of was when it was like, even in the throes of my hormones and postpartum, I was like, they don't know. They don't get it. They don't understand. They don't know what's going on. They don't know why our attention's being diverted. Like they are going through so much.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, no, you're 100% like dad's, you're still mine. I'm like, what? I'm like, and that's when I told him, like, you were mine before she was mine. Like, are you kidding? Like, this isn't changing anything. But um, it was really hard. And I was right in the sense of once my daughter turned like one, it did get easier because she was like a little being. Um, but it was rough. Having an ours baby long distance was rough because there also was then a lot of time for them to bond with her to the point where they didn't really want her around in the beginning, which like no blame to them. They're kids and they're like, oh God, this thing is coming again. That's like gonna take up all of my parents' time and like um and then I stopped going every other weekend
Mm-hmm.
because I have a newborn at home. So that just completely changed our dynamic. I'd been going almost every other weekend for the last 3 years. And when I was pregnant, I was very sick. So I would go as much as I could. It still wasn't every other weekend, but like it was still a good amount. And now I just stopped. And like now, even today, with an 18-month-old, um, I'm trying to go a little more, but like even once a month is a lot. Put a toddler in a car for 5 hours, you're gonna want to, drive off the side of a bridge. Like it's it's rough. And so it's definitely changed everything in more ways than I initially thought. But they do love her now. My oldest loves her now. Thank goodness. I would cry to my husband and be like, okay, she's gonna have a relationship with our youngest stepdaughter because, she's 7 and loves babies and wants to be a mommy's helper. I'm like, she's gonna grow up and have no relationship with her oldest sister. I was convinced.
Mm-hmm.
Convinced. And that was part two, because then I'm like, well, now I gotta pop out another one. Like, I don't want to do that right now. And that could be a sibling that likes her. Like, and maybe not. They might not even like each other.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. Like you get wrapped around the axle about that, like as a stepmom, like, oh, I have to make sure that they like each other, or I have to make sure that they, know that they're all siblings, all of the things. And the relationships, even like with my daughter and her brother and sister, are like totally different, right? Like my stepson moved in when she was 4 months old, and my stepdaughter graduated like a few months after she was born. So she was out of the house. So their relationship is very different.
Mhm.
And she doesn't know that. But I know it, right? Like, and whenever everyone's together, it's totally fine. Or whenever, like, we just saw my stepdaughter on Saturday, it's totally fine. It's not weird. But same thing, I was like, oh my God, she's never gonna know, like, her sister, like, all of these things. And then I'm like, the hard part was when my stepson left for the military, and
Yeah.
he was like, where did he go? Like, when is he coming back?
Oh.
And it was like losing my right arm, Lauren. And so I'm like,
Mhm.
you know what, girlfriend, like I'm struggling, but how do you field questions about like, when is he coming back? I'm like, because at the time he's only in basics. So I'm like, we're only talking to her for like 5 minutes on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's, we're gonna see him. And she'd be like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, besides everything, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it is really hard. And there's so many dynamics, but it's, I don't know, like now everything is like worked out and like all of the relationships are good, but I felt a lot of pressure of like, what if they don't like her? What if she doesn't like them? Or what if, my feelings of them at any given time completely taint whatever she thinks of them or their relationship? And it's just like, oh my gosh, like all of the things. So talk to me about your relationship now. Like how is everything now?
So, a lot better. Thank, thank goodness. But again, I will preface it with saying it is a lot better, but I still am careful.
Mhm.
I don't want to get too excited. You know what I mean? And not that I have guards up, but I'm still careful with what I say. I guess this is just in regards to the ex. With the kids, I'm like, they're my babies. Like it's good. But the relationship with my stepdaughters and my daughter is really good right now. They get excited when they see her. We have a group chat with me, my husband, and the kids, and I'll send pictures and videos of her, and they react really well. So it's good right now. With my husband's ex, it's also very good right now. Let me give the short version of this because this could be a very long version. We're going to do a short one. Even though I feel like none of my things have been short versions, but it's okay. So last Christmas after I had my daughter, it really helped me see a lot of things through a mom's point of view. So in her point of view as well, of why she may react to certain ways or, seemed very, uptight about some things, just like reflecting on our relationship. So I started, having more grace for her and, kind of, like, I don't want to necessarily say forgiving the past, but kind of like being okay with it and why things happened the way they did. And like, I was like, okay, I can kind of see it now. So Christmas was coming around and I wanted to get myself engraved rings with my daughter's name and my stepdaughter's name on it. And a part of me just felt like it was wrong to get my rings with my stepdaughter's names engraved on it without also getting her them, because those are her kids. So I messaged her fiance and I was like, hey, can you find her ring size? And I'd like never talked to her fiance. I was like, hey, I'm sorry, this is weird. But if you could find out her ring size, don't tell her because I don't want her to feel obligated to get me anything. I just want to do this. Just let me do it. So he was able to find it out. I sent her the rings and, I wrote a nice little message on it, nothing too crazy. And I got a message back a couple of days later after Christmas. And she was just like, these are beautiful. And I'm like, yeah, just, you were on my mind. Just wanted to send something. And I feel like that was our olive branch. Because since then, conversations just kind of opened up a little easier. We are in all a group chat together. And we just started talking more. Like a lot of times, even if it was about the kids or coordinating stuff, it more started just flowing easier just through us. Not like I was taking over the communicating with my husband, even though he didn't really care. He was like, do it. I would always, we'd be all be in the same group chat. So we'd be talking about the group chat together, but just responding between me and her kind of just like was a more friendly vibe. It was more open and it just felt easier. And then it just gradually grew from there. And then it started where we started sending each other reels and memes and stuff like that. And it was slow. So that's what I appreciated because I felt like in the beginning, she definitely tried to make a friendship like hard and fast, like come over for game night. And I was like, I don't want to do that yet. And then she also, I'm not going to give away her story because it's not mine to tell. With her now fiance, she's a stepmom to 4 children from 3 different baby mamas. So your eyes. She is going on her own journey and she's dealing with way more high conflict crap that I ever have. So Godspeed, God bless her for that. But they are handling it. And I also think that also gave her a softness of like, wow, this isn't easy. And she was a stepmom before her second marriage, but I don't know, kind of like how I say my first marriage doesn't count. She always says that marriage doesn't count. It was always a little sketch. But anyway, so this is like, she's stepmom in this relationship. So we're both stepmoms, we're both biological moms. So I don't know if we've both done healing and we both were kind of like, just, okay, we're going to be nicer towards each other. But like I said, it just slowly started to develop. And then, not to get too into it or too much detail, but my husband and I were going through a rough patch, a very, very, very rough patch, to the point where I was ready to leave. And I knew that if I was going to leave at some point, I was going to have to tell the ex, because she's going to be indirectly affected by this in a big way. And so at a point where we were really at a low point, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I promised myself I wasn't going to reach out to you until I was 1 foot out the door. And now I'm 1 foot out the door. So this is what's been going on. And I'm coming to you essentially because if I do leave, I need you to be on board with me with making sure that we encourage relationships between all three of the girls. They are siblings. I would be moving states away. Like it was going to be difficult, but I needed, you know, everyone on the same team and page with this. And that phone call that I thought was going to be like a 10-minute phone call turned into a 2-hour phone call where I essentially just spilled out everything, everything, all my struggles with a stepmom, like with her in the last 4 years, all my struggles with why I'm having hardships. And, we just unpacked literally everything. She started talking about her and my husband's past and more detailed why things happened. Like I don't know what it was. It was just like a vent vomit sesh of just, we were just like, everything's on the table. Everything's on the table. Like, take it or leave it. Like, we need to move forward, and that's it. And this does not always happen. I never in a million years thought this would ever happen. I thought I'd be living in a constant state of ebbs and flows. And I'm praying to the good Lord that this is not part of the ebb and flows, but it's been consistent enough where, I'm going to try and keep it consistent. But it was different. Everything was put on the table, and we were both very receptive to what the other one was saying. To the point where after that was done, she essentially was like, I love you two together. I know you're going to make whatever decision is best for you, but like, I'm here for you too. My family is here for you too. Like, if there's anything we can do for you, let us know. And they kind of, her and her family definitely did help a lot in, reaching out to my husband. He's still close with a part of her family. So I encouraged them to kind of like talk, and she constantly checked in on me and like, was like, not pushy, but just was like, I'm here with like open arms. And it was really nice because I was able to appreciate her as a friend. And just as like another woman, another mom. And it definitely changed my view on her. And it's like, she's a friend now. I mean, I'm not going to get matching jerseys, but she's definitely a friend now. We went out a couple weeks ago when I was there visiting, and me and her went and got like 2 drinks, nothing crazy, just got dinner and drinks. And like, we were like, we're talking over the phone. Let's like actually go out. And we had great conversations, nothing like about anything really related to like step family, step life. It was just like another mom, another woman. And I literally never thought I'd be here, but I do have to say, it wasn't just her taking all those steps that helped me be okay with forming this relationship with her. After I had my daughter and I sent that gift, it's because I was doing a lot of self-reflection, and I had to kind of separate her into 2 people in my mind. Like, yes, we were co-parents. She was my husband's ex. It's like a co-parent hat and like another woman and another mom hat. Like, I had to wear 2 different hats with her, and that really helped, because if I just looked at her as the bio mom, the ex, someone who's trying to ruin my life, and then I switched that over to, she's trying to move on with her life too. Like, she is a mom, she's another woman, like she's dealing with all this crap in her life as well. And if I kind of look at her in that lens and not think she's trying to control my life and out to get me, then it's going to soften my view of her, and in return kind of help me relax in my own space. Mm-hmm. And just kind of make it more neutral.
Yeah.
And looking at her in that way really helped. Now, on co-parenting things, there's not things I always agree on. Even as a mom, there's ways that she raises the girls that I wouldn't raise my daughter, but to each their own. But I never had to really change how I saw her. And I don't know if this is healthy, but having 2 hats for her has really worked with me so far. Like, okay, she's my co-parent right now. Let's talk about this stuff. Let's talk about the kids. Okay, she did that with the kids. I don't really care for that, but okay, whatever, that's fine. And then talking to her as a mom and a woman and also another healthcare worker, um, it's just really helped. But I do know my situation is not like everyone's. You can't really do this if you're not at this place with yourself and they're not in a place with it. Like I know she's done healing as well. She's gone to therapy. She's seeked help. She's seeked, resources. And I know that because we've talked about it. So I know she's trying to heal as much as I am. But if one of us wasn't trying to heal, this wouldn't it wouldn't be possible. So
Yeah.
it's like you can't you can't be like, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna reach out to the ex and be like, let's go get some drinks, girl. If they're just like, no. Yeah, it's you do have to wait for the right time if the time ever comes. And then I'm also not naive to the fact that this could be an ebb in the
Yeah.
flow. So that's where I'm careful when I say I'm careful. I'm enjoying it and I'm savoring it and I am letting it grow into whatever it grows into. But if it starts to go downhill, I'm also not going to feel destroyed over it either.
You're not going to jump on the sled and go downhill too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Whee!
Yeah. Yay. Let's see how fun this is going to be. Yeah. I think that that's so valid because everyone's on their own healing journey, right? Like you said, like she could not be doing anything and you could be doing something, or vice versa. You could not be doing anything and she's doing things. And I think that's where we get caught up, like, oh, I should just try harder, or I should just, right. Yeah. It's like that
If
doesn't,
they're not ready, you can't force it.
yeah, it's never going to be good. It's never going to be good. Like I said to you at the beginning, like when we talked years ago, like you just have to give it time, which sucks to hear like when it's going on, but like everyone needs to, venture down their own path and, you know, grow and learn all of the different things that they grow and learn if they're open to that or if they're going to do that. And maybe we don't do matching jerseys either. We've had matching buttons before, but we've never had matching jerseys. But like if that's what your relationship is, great. I don't think that should be the gold standard because
Nope.
everything is there's so many variables, there's so many outside factors, there's so many things, right? Like just in your relationship with your husband, even in my relationship with my husband, it's not perfect all of the time.
No.
There's so many variables when it just comes to us, and then you factor in like, oh, and you're remarried and you have kids and you're a stepmom and like all of there's so many different things that if you can just be cordial to each other, that's fine. I don't expect you guys to be like best friends. I don't expect you to hate each other. And if you fall on those spectrums too, that's totally fine. But like, it's,
Just focus on yourself. Like at the end of the day, as a stepmom, like I know it's hard when there's a lot of conflict around you to get sucked into it and go down the rabbit hole, but and you have to kind of force yourself to get uncomfortable with
yeah,
prioritizing yourself, get uncomfortable with focusing on yourself because as humans in general, and especially empaths and stepmoms, it feels wrong to do that. But in the midst of all the chaos and all the drama, you need to take moments to focus on you because when you focus on you and you start to heal, you don't have to be completely healed, but when you start prioritizing that path, like it will rub off on people eventually, not right away, but like it will rub off that you're focusing on something that is more focused on you and your mental health and your well-being because then they'll see you be a happier person, they'll see you be more at peace and more willing and hopefully calm and they'll be like, oh, well, this
oh,
is nice.
yeah.
How'd she get there?
Drink some of that water too. But yeah,
Yeah,
it takes a lot to get there. Oh my gosh, this has been super fun. I could chat with you
I
all
know. I
night.
just tap my phone and saw the time, and I was like, "Oh, it's my bedtime."
But I feel like people are gonna be like, can you have Lauren back on? So
Oh, I would love to come back on, and maybe, maybe one day when I grow my page more and maybe start like getting my certs and everything, because I would love to do that. I'll show my face, but I know I kind of like being anonymous, and but like anonymous to the fact where like if you know me and you see one video, you're gonna be like, okay, I know exactly who you are. So
yeah,
like I'm not
that's what I
trying
thought
so
too.
hard.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So where can everyone find you? I will obviously link it in the show notes, but like where can
Yeah.
everyone find you?
So I have an Instagram and a TikTok. TikTok is where I'm at most, where I'm more comfortable with, and it is at Blended by Distance. And yeah, hopefully, we can grow this thing and I can come back and talk more. And because I feel like we have a bajillion other things we could talk about because we totally tangent off on different things. We're like, okay, wait, come back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, I will link in the show notes. But yeah, thank you so much, Lauren. This has been super fun.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this week's episode. If anything was helpful or resonated with you, please share it on social media and tag me. I'm just at Alicia Crasco. And if you could leave a 5-star rating and review while you're at it, that would also be really helpful. And if you find yourself struggling with your stepmom journey and you want a little bit more support without the hefty price tag of coaching, you might want to check out the Stepmom Side community, which is my own private community for stepmoms, where you get to connect with other stepmoms around the world and myself, where I hold weekly office hours and monthly group coaching. It's kind of like you have your own personal coach in your own back pocket. Again, without that hefty price tag. See you next week.